Hi everyone, my name is John and I'm the creative lead at Dear Digital. Today we'll be talking with David Kahl, founder and driving force behind Fully. Fully is a global brand most known for their amazing standing desks called Jarvis. They sell everything exclusively online and do so in the US and on the European continent. In this episode we'll dive deeper in the mechanics behind a furniture e-commerce and how they expanded beyond the US. If you have any question, don't hesitate to reach out through my LinkedIn profile or send me an email at john@deardigital.be. Enjoy the conversation. Welcome to the podcast, David. Thank you for joining us.
It's great to be here, John. Thanks.
How are you doing?
Doing well. It's wintertime in Portland, over here in Oregon. So this is the time of year when the days are really short, and a lot of us go inside and sort of think about all the internal things that are happening and what's next. So it's sort of an introspective time of year for me, but it's a good time.
Yeah, I can imagine. Same for us here. Also winter, not the best days for us, but definitely cozy inside. You recently left Fully. Can you tell us something more about you leaving Fully?
Yeah, sure. So I was the founder and CEO at Fully for um, I guess 16 years, 17 years. I exited the company sold the company in 2019 and stayed on as CEO for 2 years afterward to transition from being an independently operated company to part of a publicly traded company. We were sold to Knoll, Knoll, and they subsequently had a transaction with Herman Miller, another large furniture company, and they merged into a company now called MillerKnoll. So I've been transitioning and helping to steward and pass on the company to our new parent, and the time was just right for me to move on. I think the kind of leader that Fully needs now is different than the kind of growth-minded entrepreneur that I am,
Mhm.
building Fully to where it is when I left it. So it's time for new leadership. That they're part of a bigger company. I mean, MillerKnoll is a collection of 19 different design-driven brands like Fully, Herman Miller, Knoll, CVS, Muto, um, Mars Living Walls, a whole bunch of them. And
Yeah.
so it's more of a mature company at this point, and so they're looking for different outcomes in terms of how they measure success.
Yeah. I I can imagine the transition for you of like being a full-time founder, like going 100% for your company and then suddenly like not going 100% for it. It's not easy.
That's fair. I think my fellow entrepreneurs can agree when we have our eyes set on something and we're moving full forward ahead. There's an incredible amount of focus and attention and momentum that happens with that, and then just stopping
Yeah.
can be really it's difficult, and it's a transition for sure. So it's been about 6 weeks since I transitioned off of Fully, and I'm in this period where I'm trying to be really purposeful and mindful about what I do next, and also recognizing the fact that I need a little bit of rest.
Hmm.
Um, Driving hard for 16 years at something takes a toll. It takes a
Yeah.
toll on you physically. It takes a toll on you mentally, emotionally, all of those kinds of things. So I'm going to practice a little bit of self care for the next few months. Um, give myself some space to think about and feel what might be next for me, and I think just reconnect with my North Star,
Yeah.
which I think sometimes when you get so busy doing something, and if you don't periodically check in with why am I doing this, you can sometimes get a little bit askew from where you thought you were going. So I think it's important for me to just realign what I want to do with these gifts that I have to the world over these next few months.
Yeah. So you said 16 years. So 16 years ago you started Fully. Can you tell us something more about why you started Fully, and how did you think of starting Fully?
Yeah, I came out. I studied finance and accounting in college, and in the young part of my career, I worked in public accounting, and I worked in corporate finance, and I worked in mergers and acquisitions. And I think um, for many years, I sort of was doing my job because I thought that this was what I was supposed to be doing, and I'd gone to school for this, and I wasn't really in the work so much. And some big things happened in my life and in the world, and I just had a wake up call like around 2001 that just a question of what's my why? What am I doing, and why am I doing it? So I also had a transition time back then where I said I'm gonna quit my job and just figure out what's next for me. I'm not feeling like I'm connected to the work or to the people, and I don't really feel like I even have a why. I just feel like I'm doing things, and I felt like a pinball in a pinball machine, just reacting to a whole bunch of stuff and moving in a direction without having the control over where I was going.
Yeah.
So I took some time off at that time and listened and reminded myself that I also have a really creative side, and I have a side that likes to build things and do things. And so I knew I wanted to start my own company,
Okay.
try something on my own, make it my own, and really believe in it and align it with my why. And my why, after a lot of soul searching, was to really bring out the best in people,
Okay.
bring out the best in myself, bring out the best in those around me. Um, and I've always had, I would say, an eye for design and beautiful things and the emotional attachment that brings. So after connecting a lot of dots that you can only really do when I think when you quiet the mind some and really listen to those things that are important to you, um, I thought about creating this company that would bring well-designed products that help us move more directly to consumers.
Yeah.
In my experience in my career, in one of my stops, I worked with a furniture representative, it's like a furniture rep group, and they would represent different brands of furniture to architects and designers. And what I noticed when I was looking at that business model was there were so many people involved in how office furniture got to customers that it was almost bewildering. You had architects and designers who wanted to specify products for their end users, and they would go to sales reps who were part of a bigger team who would then go to report into their corporate leads. But then the people who were actually designing the products were completely disconnected from that whole cycle.
Yeah.
So what I tried to do was get a closer relationship to the customer, build a relationship with them directly, create our own products that I felt were um, in their own way able to bring out all of our very best. In fact, I'm sitting on one right now. I'll just stand up and show you. This is one of the ones we designed called, this is called the Tock balance.
Nice.
So, we took what the kneeling chair used to be, created more movement, put ourselves in healthy postures so that without us having to think about it, we're in positions that naturally allow us to move, our blood to flow, and for in its own subtle way, us to be able to access all of ourselves. So that product portfolio was it began with just seating,
Yeah.
um, but then it expanded into height adjustable desks, which became one of the most famous things that Fully is known for these days, is our Jarvis desk and our Remy desk.
Yeah.
Um, and we created those products in house because we felt like there was a better way to do it. Having that direct dialogue with our customers and knowing what they wanted helped us bring products to market faster
Yeah.
than the bigger competitors who, as I said before, were talking to their reps, who were
Mhm.
talking to their salespeople, who were, by the time it got to the product development team, it was a different message and it took a long
Yeah.
time to get there. So I feel like we had a really good competitive advantage around creating relevant, well-priced products
Yeah.
to give to our customers. So that's why I started the companies, because I felt like there was an opportunity to do things better, to create better products,
Yeah.
to have richer relationships with our customers and our employees, building a company that was about something, and working at a company where you can actually believe in and align with their values. And finally, I think I wanted to create a company that was socially responsible, a company that was that took into account that we all have a duty to make the world better, and corporations have a huge amount of power, and businesses have a huge amount of power in the world. And so making sure that we were doing right by our employees, by our customers, by our stakeholders, by Mother Nature,
Hmm.
to create products with a minimal amount of impact into the world, and at the same time making sure that we were investing in our people and our communities, to make sure that where we live is something that we're proud of, and
Yeah.
that between work and life is really blurred. So making sure that we can work at a company that we love and live in communities where we feel safe and there are opportunities for us and our kids.
Yeah. Well, it's already an incredible answer to to why did you start a company. But there were a lot of interesting bits there, and I think something I'd like to highlight in general is what we'll often hear for a D2C, let's call it direct to consumer business to start, is more of a price reasoning. It's like we're just cutting out the middlemen, and without the middlemen, we can like give you a better price because we're selling it online. That's definitely not the reason why you did it. It's you decided to be closer to the customer. You decided to have let's call it a smaller feedback loop, and then like optimize for a better product in the end. In the beginning, you started by reselling products. At a certain time, you decided to design a new product. Can you tell us a bit more about that process?
Yeah, for sure. So in the beginning, what I saw was the opportunity to sell direct to customers and have that relationship. And so not having the ability yet to design our own products, we curated what we thought were the very best in active sitting products and even height adjustable tables back then, from all the best places in the world. So we were kind of a marketplace,
Yeah.
where we brought in all of those products. There were only a handful of products. We only wanted to sell the very best things that we loved and really believe in them and use them and could vouch for them, to all of to our customers. So there were active sitting products and height adjustable
Yeah.
tables and some accessories like monitor arms and other ergonomic things that help us be in more healthy postures when we're working. But then over time, John, what happened was, um, you're only as good as your manufacturers are. So, for example, uh, my experience is when you're having a relationship with a customer and something goes wrong with the product, or they're not happy about something, you have to go to the manufacturer and talk about it. You have to go to the manufacturer and say, "Hey, look, this is what happened. The product is not quite right, or it got damaged in shipping, and I need you to ship a new one tomorrow or something." And many times they'll step up and do it, but sometimes they won't.
Hmm.
And I think what I learned in working with other third-party manufacturers is they're never going to care as much about your business as you do.
Hmm.
So we needed to really create our own products, so we had complete control over what the customer experience was. Um, if your manufacturer doesn't do right by you, the customer doesn't care that it's your manufacturer that is to blame here, or FedEx or TNT. They're doing business with you.
Yeah.
And so if you don't get them the product on time, or you don't get them, or something goes wrong with it and you aren't able to make them happy, they don't care about what's happening behind you. They did a transaction with your company. So we went to essentially completely bringing all of our products in house because we wanted to have complete control over the customer experience. Now, we don't do things perfectly. We still mess up,
Yeah.
but we own our mistakes, and we're at least able to learn from them and do better over and over again, because there's nobody better to bet on than yourselves
Yeah.
if you're going to want to build a company that is going to really resonate with customers.
And so you started around 2005 then?
That's right. 2005 was and it was only 3 chairs at that
Three
time.
chairs.
We only had 3 chairs on the website. I learned HTML. I did things the hard way.
Okay. Yeah.
Uh, I didn't have any startup capital or
Hmm.
anything. I was just doing it from my own bandwidth, staying up super late at night, sometimes all night,
Yeah.
learning how to build a website. And so I built it and had 3 products on there. And holy cow, if you go back into the way back machine, you'll see some very rudimentary websites.
Yeah.
And it was more substance over form back then. I knew that we were selling great products and we were going to have an awesome relationship with customers. Um, but the way it looked was, I would say, not so beautiful.
Yeah.
So um, one thing that I've learned over time is just making sure you surround yourself with people and teams who know more than you do and can do a better job. I mean, for me, I had a huge passion for the product. I had a huge passion for making deep relationships with customers and having them have an emotional buy-in to who we were as a brand.
Hmm.
But then partnering with people who knew what they were doing around building a website, creating payment gateways, CRMs, digital marketing campaigns. It was just really key. And not only giving up that control to them and letting them do it, but making sure they understood who the company is.
Yeah.
I think that is so important. And I think we're going to talk a little bit about Europe in particular, but I think one of the ways as companies grow and expand, both in their own land and in other lands, is making sure that your employees and your service providers understand your why.
Hmm.
What is the brand all about? And so I think making sure that we chose developers, marketing agencies, and other third party providers who really got who we were as a company
Yeah.
helped us to really fuel that integrity of the brand as we expanded.
Were you back in the days? Were you already aware of all these things, or would you say you were a young entrepreneur and just doing stuff, and then like in retrospect, you could say like now I find this super important, and like back then I wasn't aware of the fact like I had to choose the right theme, I had to have the right product, I had to serve the customer the right way, or would you? Uh, how did it all grow? Because all these things you're saying right now are super interesting, and I completely agree with you. But of course, it takes a while before all these things come.
Um, I think when you're in the heat of growing a company and scaling, you sometimes just are just doing it, and you're going fast, and you're meeting your customers where they are. You're looking at your competition, and you have a lot to think about as a founder and an entrepreneur as you're growing. And so I think it's always really important to check back in with what's this brand? Why am I doing what I'm doing? And how am I going to continue as this thing grows and more people come on
Yeah.
to make sure that this brand means something to me? So I always fell back on what are the 3 things that are most important whenever we made really big decisions. Is this going to be right by the customer? Are we doing something that is pro customer? Because sometimes it's really easy to get a less expensive payment
Mhm.
gateway or a less expensive agency to help you with your ads. But if it doesn't resonate deeply with the customer, it's not worth the savings. So, are we doing right by the customer? Number 2, is this something that the brand that's going to deepen the emotional attraction that this brand has with customers?
Yep.
So, for example, it's easy to just set up a site and sell a widget or whatever, but there's got to be something that brings the customer back that's not about price or about features or about whatever. Making sure the customer feels some kind of affinity to and loyalty with this brand. And so there are these, I think, subtle things that need to be done that can only really work if you feel deeply that your brand is about something.
Yep.
Maybe that comes through in the copy, maybe that comes through in your photography, maybe that comes through in video. Maybe it comes through in the voice of your customer service reps, but there's you've got to make sure that you're maintaining this reason for customers to come back to you. And I think third, how does this affect our stakeholders? Those people, entities, and communities around, are they going to be better off with these decisions that we're making? So I think for us, it was that sort of three-legged stool around, are all these things getting checked? And I think making sure that when we did big things, like for example, expand into Europe,
Hmm.
um, are we checking off all of these boxes, and how are we doing it?
Yeah. You let's give them let's give the listeners like a rough sketch of what you were doing back in 2005 up until I don't know 2007. I remember you telling me once that you were selling on your website. You were also selling through eBay. It was, let's say, the heydays of not the heydays. It's like the beginning of real e-commerce. I think Amazon already existed, but it's not definitely not the behemoth that it's right now. Just in general, like you said, we now have all the tools to quickly start an e-commerce. So we tend to, and that's my question to you also. We tend to focus on the wrong things. The right things would be focusing on product, focusing on serving your customer. We tend to focus on having a cheaper, let's say, payment provider, and all these things. Like maybe it is because you started in 2005 that you've seen the whole way of evolving the e-commerce market here, that it's that made you the like who you are today.
Yeah. Oh, thinking back on that, John, it really was the Wild West back then. I mean, uh, there was no one platform that was clearly how one should go to market in
Mhm.
terms of e-commerce. Back then, eBay was a huge percentage of what was being transacted online. There was a platform called Yahoo Stores, which was similar, I think, to Shopify, but much less customizable, where you could have some different templates to
Yeah.
bring your store to the web, and they would take a little percentage of the sale. So I tried a lot of things. I On eBay, I would do a lot of listings, try them in different ways, word them differently, try different photography. Um, I would do both the auctions, where you would have a sort of a minimum that you would accept, and also do the buy it for one price. And then back then there were outlets like Craigslist that were actually ways that you could transact, not just for used product and in
Yeah.
marketplaces, but for new things as well. So I tried a lot of things. I tried the Yahoo store, I tried this and that and whatever. But what ultimately came through for us was, how are we really touching the customer in the most direct way possible? And that was to create our own website. And back then we used templates. I mean, we started out with the Yahoo store because it was relatively easy for somebody like me who didn't really know HTML well.
Mhm.
Then we moved on to a platform called Volusion, which was probably Yahoo Stores
Okay.
3.0, and they had support as well, and
Okay.
they helped us with things like not only the HTML stuff, but how to where to put the photographs on the page, um, how the checkout process was. Is it a one-page checkout? Is it a three-page checkout? All of those kinds of things, and then ultimately realizing, hey, if we want to have a, the most direct and advantageous um, relationship with our customers, we've got to create it ourselves. We've got to create the website and the experience, the navigation ourselves, because templates can only go so far
Mhm.
in creating the kind of brand that we want to create here. So that was a point, I guess, around 2010, 2011,
Okay.
where we said, we've got to do this from scratch. And so going to a dev company to help us create the entire infrastructure of our website and the experience from the bottom up was what we started.
Yeah.
And I think at the time, it's just like, hey, we're going to do it ourselves. holy cow, when you start to once you decide you're going to do it yourself, however hard you think it's going to be, multiply that by like 50, because there were so many things that we didn't know. I know it's really common to say you don't know what you don't know,
Hmm.
but it's really there's a lot to think about,
Yeah.
and there's a lot of trying to build your stack of all of the different things that need to work seamlessly together. Become and you bring it on and own it in house. Um, that's a whole other level of commitment
Okay.
to the customer
Well,
experience.
was there like a certain inflection point where you remember like you were on the template and then you switched to a custom made store? Like, was there a certain point that you said like we need to solve this problem and the only way of solving it is having a custom store, or was it more of a, I don't know, frustrations that were like building up until a breaking point that you were going to for a custom store?
Well, it was a little bit of both, John, because it was almost like there's a phrase in English. It was the straw that broke the camel's back,
Hmm.
or there were a whole bunch of little things like why can't I control over where this picture is versus the text? Why can't I change the color of the buy button? Why can't I change the size of the images on our product category pages? And then ultimately, it came down to we wanted to do a one-page checkout for our customers. We wanted to just make it really easy. And there was the templates would not allow us to put everything on one page to be able to put your payment information, your shipping address, your billing address, if they want to sign up for our newsletter. And we wanted it to be as seamless and easy as possible for our customers. So we just decided this is enough, and we went down this parallel path of creating all of those things we wanted in a customer service experience versus what the templates had. And I think that we were the first office furniture company for sure, and I would even say furniture company that nailed, I think, what it can be like to shop for furniture online. It
Okay.
doesn't have to be
Yeah.
this template and this cookie cutter experience. And I think that really paid off for us as our conversion rates went up dramatically,
Okay.
our average order value increased, and customers were really resonating with this new way of shopping.
I I'm still very interested in that period of time. Let's say pre-custom store. Like, how did you attract customers back in the days? Facebook, I think, started in 2007, but I can be completely wrong. Was it through Google Ads? Maybe Google Ads even started, I don't know, in 2006. Was it SEO?
Um, we did a lot of Google AdWords to get people to see us and know us. Back then, buying it was a different world
Yeah.
back then, John. Just to kind of think about it for a minute, buying buying things online was not the
Hmm.
normal way that people bought things, and buying furniture online was really a
Yeah.
stretch. The idea that people would buy something sight unseen without trying it out, without really knowing the reputation of the company or whatever. They didn't have customer reviews online back
No.
then. So it was really difficult for us to get off the ground and convince people that, hey, we got you here. Um, so for us, it was making sure that there was enough information on the website of all of the things that people wanted. We would do videos. We would talk about our return policy, um, so that they had some level of confidence that
Hmm.
working with us was the right thing to do. But your question was, how do we get them on the site? And it was a mix of Google AdWords, number
Yeah.
one, and I think SEO back then was just kind of beginning to be a thing.
Hmm.
um, Google's algorithms and how does Google and back then Yahoo and Lycos and Ask Jeeves and the other search engines that we have, how do they know your site's
Yeah.
there? So we worked with a couple of outside agencies to help us with the wording on our site, the layout on our site, and this was another reason we needed to go with our own custom site
Hmm.
because you don't have as much control with the templates on SEO kinds of things. But what really paid off for us in the early days was actually Google Shopping.
Okay.
And I think even to this day, having those visual ads, just the pictures of your product when people search for something, goes a long way because we invested a lot in photography.
Hmm.
We wanted to make sure that our product looked inviting, it looked interesting, and we felt like we had better photography than a lot of our competitors did.
Yeah.
So being able to, when you typed for a standing desk or a healthy chair, to get a picture up there with a price, and a link, was really where we got the best conversions for our customers and the most traffic. And then later, when Google started to implement customer ratings into their Google Shopping feeds, since our customers really love our product, and we get a lot of love from our customers. Some of the reviews are pages long that customers write about the product and the experience. So once potential customers started to see that, hey, not only does that product look great and the price looks good, but customers are really saying, I'm glad I did what I did and bought this product. So it just became better. The more information that customers were able to see, the better it was for us because we knew that we were creating great products and our customers loved them. So Google Ads, shopping for sure, investing in
Yeah.
SEO was certainly something that went a long way for us, and also creating creating partnerships and blogs and with third parties,
Okay.
um, where they would try our product and talk about our product and advocate for our product as well. So developing those kinds of relationships with other
Yeah.
entities who can, from a marketing standpoint, maybe reach channels and customers that you wouldn't normally be getting through those people that are lower in the funnel and ready to buy right now. Because not everybody, when they go online, is wanting to buy a standing desk today. Maybe they're just getting their feet wet a little bit around what is this whole thing around standing more? What is this thing about healthy sitting and what does that mean? So making sure we were also peppering the top of the funnel more with people who were just learning about ways that they could work in a way that help them to feel better and do better work.
Yeah. Yeah. I think it sounds very similar to what we have today, although we have some other platforms helping us like Facebook, Instagram, and so on for traffic. But it doesn't sound like it has changed much. But I do imagine like the competitors' landscape has changed a lot. The competitive landscape has changed a lot. Like imagine where 2008, if you were to search for ergonomic chair, would you be number one, or would you be the first ad people would see, or was it way more specific, like Scandinavian ergonomic chairs, for example?
Um, we wouldn't be organically the first. We'd be in the top 3 or 4 or 5 probably. Um, but we would we would consistently get better conversions just because when people actually got to the site and started to navigate and see who we were and what we were all about and what our products were, I think they resonated with us more. I don't know where we are, where Fully is in terms of the rankings now, but for us, standing desks were a huge part of our growth, and that's still to this day. I think the majority of what Fully sells are standing desks. So really catapulting up once we released the standing desk. I think it took us probably a year to get on the first page
Hmm.
of standing desks. But it didn't take us long to get into the top 5 or the top 3, or in many countries we're number one.
Hmm.
Um, and that's partially because I think of just the amazing momentum that our desks have had with uh, connecting with customers, and third party reviews of just
Yeah.
unsolicited folks buying our desks and saying, "Holy cow, this is really amazing! The product is great, the feature set is great, and the value is really solid." So, um, I think just to answer your question, it took us time to get up
Yeah.
there. Um, but I think once you get up there and you continue to do what you're doing, and you're with delivering on your promise, um, it's yours to
Yeah.
lose.
Definitely. I maybe an interesting thing I know, but we haven't told the listeners yet. Back in 2005, you weren't called Fully. You were going under the name Ergo Depot. At what time did you decide to change the brand? Because we've been talking about the brand and the subtleties a lot. And at a certain time, you said like, my customers are have changed. Maybe we need to speak to them in a different manner. The name doesn't resonate anymore. Is there something you can tell us about that?
Yeah, for sure. And that's, and I think you really hit on the premise of why we needed to change. But, back when I started the company, I was really literal around what the promise of this site was. We were an ergonomics company, so we wanted to make sure that ergonomically you were all set up
Yeah.
with your seating, your monitor arm, whatever, and we'll get it to you fast. And that was the whole idea of the depot part.
Okay.
When Ergo Depot started, not only was our competitive advantage the fact that we had direct relationships with customers, but we the this idea of having your furniture shipped in the next day or two was unheard of back then.
Okay.
When you ordered furniture, it got
Hmm.
manufactured, and so I mean, even the basic ergonomic chairs and uh, most simple of height adjustable tables had lead times of at least 3 to 5 weeks by the time they shipped. So the depot part for us, the fact that we were shipping things
Yeah.
out that were already ready made and to go, was what I also wanted to make sure customers understood. So Ergo Depot was the brand that shipped ergonomic products fast to you. And we went under that brand for 7, 8 years, 9 years maybe. Um, but as our company evolved, all of us as entrepreneurs, as business leaders, know that every day your company changes a little bit. And if it's not changing, something's really wrong.
Hmm.
And where we had gone over the last 8 or so years was creating our own products in house and really touching our customers in the way of this promise that our products would help you access all of who you really are, the fullness of being human.
Yeah.
Only when you're comfortable and you're not thinking about, oh, my back hurts, or my breathing's not so good, or my chest isn't opened up, can we really access all of who we are. So we had a really great creative director who helped us with the rebrand. We knew that Ergo Depot was not the right name for our company anymore.
Hmm.
It worked for a while, but as the market changed, everybody was shipping products fast. But 8 to 10 years
Yeah.
later, the word ergonomic also became somewhat prescriptive, and not as it didn't have that level
Yeah.
of all of what our products really did. They were more than just ergonomic. That was a characteristic of the
Yeah.
products, but there was something that was deeper and less tangible about what our products did. So we worked with an amazing company called Studio Jelly here in Portland. Jelly Helm has been the creative director at Fully for a long time, and we went through and thought about like how can we embody all of that we are as a company into a name,
Yeah.
and we came up with Fully, which is a lot shorter, and I think in some ways more direct, but in some ways less direct about what we do.
Yeah.
And I think that having that name that's a little bit like, what does that mean
Yeah.
fully? Uh, has also been one of the advantages of going to a name like Fully, because I think everybody has a different relationship with what Fully means to them. So we created that name, and then came the part of, now how do we secure the URL, and do the entire rebranding? Because getting a URL like fully.com is not so easy. Were we going to do fully.co or ful.ly or some other iteration? So then just became the process of, now how do we actually do
Yeah.
this? How do we switch everything over? What are the colors? What are the brand identities? And how do we actually do it? So for the next 9 to 12 months, we planned and we secured the fully.com website. and began that transition into who Fully is today. And when we launched with this new brand, I remember one of the first things that we told our customers is, we're as of today, our brand name is fully.com. And we feel like that's really been who we are all along.
Mhm.
But until now, have we realized that this is who we are?
Yeah.
So I think as an entrepreneur, it's important to realize as your company changes and evolves, make sure that you don't need to change your brand necessarily, but make sure how you tell your story and your messaging also goes along with it.
I have two questions. One is a very short one. Do you remember who had the URL fully.com?
Yes. So we did the search, and it was one of those instances where it wasn't being commercialized. It was just sort of being
Yeah.
held by someone. It was only 5 letters.
So he bought it so he could sell it again.
I don't know. My assumption is
Yeah.
yes. And so I reached out to him and said, this is what we want to do. We don't have a lot of money. We're not a huge
Yeah.
company. And we started a conversation. I had sort of a number in mind that I was willing to go to.
Yeah.
And his number that he had in mind was bigger than the number I had
I
in
can
mind
imagine.
that I was willing to go to. And I'm like, hey, look, what can we do here? And luckily, we intersected in this part of we were both philanthropic and we wanted to do the right thing and be purposeful. So we couldn't get to we agreed that I would get to that number, but rather than that amount going to him, we donated it to Doctors Without Borders.
Oh, okay.
So the number that we got to was ultimately there, but that ended up being a donation from us on our side. So
Nice.
we got to the number, and I still get mail so often from Doctors Without Borders asking me to continue to make those huge
Yeah.
donations. We still make the donation, but not that
Yeah,
big
of
anymore.
course. Okay. And what if you hadn't changed the name to Fully? Would have had a different impact on the company? And of course, it's very difficult to estimate how it would have been different. But like, you would have been held back by the name Ergo Depot.
I think undoubtedly. I think that name didn't didn't age well and was gonna age in the future even worse.
Mhm.
We didn't want to be a company that was prescriptive
Yeah.
or living in the past. So I think if we had kept that name, it would have severely limited the potential that we could have had with our customers. And I don't think there's any way that Knoll or Herman Miller would have wanted to own a company called Ergo Depot.
Yeah. Yeah. Awesome. I'm interested to hear what was the first product you created, because at first you were reselling certain design products, and at a certain time you were like, we need to create this product. How did you hear the demand? Was it the customers saying you like, we're really missing out on this product, or you have this product but it's not great, maybe remake it?
Yeah. We were, as I said before, curating the best products that we thought were fulfilling our promise. There were kneeling chairs, there were saddle chairs, there were monitor arms we were buying from companies like Human Scale, Flock, which is their subsidiary called Hog from Norway, Eris in Germany, and we had partnered with a height adjustable table company that at the time was the best that I could find. Being a curator of the best
Yeah.
products out there, they were a Danish company, and we were white labeling their products as Ergo Depot products, not changing anything about
Yeah.
them, but calling them Ergo Depot branded things, and it worked fine, and we worked well with them for a while. But a few things happened. Number one, what I talked about before, us only being as good as our manufacturers are, we weren't getting the kind of service that we wanted our customers to receive. And the products were good, but they weren't great.
Yeah.
And I want things to be great. I don't want our customers to have to settle for things. Like I wasn't there were things about the handset, there were things about the decibel levels of the motors. There were things about the fit and finish of the product that I just didn't have the control over. I would suggest it to them. I'm like, hey, you guys should think about a different kind of powder coat, a more environmentally friendly powder coat. You guys should think about um, a handset that's more user friendly and you don't have to hold down two buttons. You literally had to hold down two buttons to make it go up and down.
Okay.
Now it just seems
Yeah.
ridiculous. Um, they considered it a safety feature
Oh, that way. Okay.
because they didn't want you to
Like bounce.
injure
Yeah.
your kid or whatever. So it was the height adjustable desk, John, that ultimately said we've got to do this ourselves.
Hmm.
We've looked in the market. This company was the closest to what we wanted to bring to market, but it really wasn't what we had in
Yeah.
mind in terms of a customer experience. So, um, and I didn't know how to design products.
Hmm.
I'm a finance person. I mean, I know great products when I see
Yeah.
them, but I don't know how to make them. So, as I've been talking about before, I think really partnering with people who know how to do things well and bringing your X factor, bringing what you do well together can create recipes for some amazing output. And we've done that with Studio Jelly in
Yeah.
terms of the brand, done that with our outside suppliers in terms of writing code for us, doing marketing for us, doing video for us.
Hmm.
And in terms of the product, I tried to find the very best actuator manufacturer out there, and not getting too technical around how the sausage gets made
Yeah.
necessarily, but you know the heart of a height adjustable desk are these lifting columns in the legs called actuators. And actuators aren't unique to height adjustable desks. They're used in a lot of other products out there. And in the industrial world, actuators are used in a lot of building materials. This is used in civil engineering. They're used in hospital beds. They're used in a lot of different applications. So I just did a lot of research around who's actually making these actuators,
Yeah.
and then finding those companies, meeting them, figuring out, hey, is this someone who's maybe aligned with what is it a company that I want to do business with? Is it a company that I want to steward our resources
Yeah.
with? And finding those that really knew what they were doing. And so um, I went to them and said, hey, I want to build a height adjustable desk. With your actuators are best in class. You want to collaborate with me on this? Do you want to help create something? And at this time, this company didn't make height adjustable desks. They were
Okay.
using their actuators and other
Yeah.
things. So we got together and there were a whole bunch of meetings and we brought the desk to market after a little over a year of development. At the time, it was the first height adjustable desk under $1,000
Okay. Nice.
because uh, back then, height adjustable desks were somewhat of a niche product and quite expensive for what you got.
Do you remember the time you were, which period in time was this?
2013, maybe 2012, 2013. So 9 or 10 years ago, 8 or 9 years
Yeah.
ago, depending on when people are listening to this. But it was a long time ago. Um, and when we released it, our competitors were I think dubious or doubtful that this was actually a product that was going to last. They're like, how can this little seating company who's never really created their own products? They've been more of a marketplace. What do they know about height adjustable
Yeah.
desks? What we knew about height adjustable desks is we knew what our customers wanted. We had a direct relationship with them, and so they were telling us every day what they liked and didn't like.
Hmm.
We knew how to service um, our customers.
Yeah.
Unlike our competitors who would there
Yeah.
was
Service
they
other
didn't
people. Yeah.
exactly there was this circular um, game of telephone happening
Hmm.
and by the time we got to the product development team it was different. So we had a really great competitive advantage and they didn't know it. They just saw us, this company that had no reputation in this area,
Yeah.
bringing something to market that was probably inferior to what theirs were. And this is at the very heart of innovation.
Yeah.
And this is why these upstart companies eat the lunch of the big established companies all the time, and this is why Foley is not part of Herman Miller,
Hmm.
is that we saw a different and better way to do it. So we released the product, and within 3 months, height adjustable desks were as big a part of our business as seating was, and we
Wow.
just started as only a seating company.
Okay.
The product resonated with customers, and we were able to iterate and improve things quickly. Um, and within the first 5 or so years, we had iterated almost either 18 or 19 times on the design of the desk because we could do it quickly. We were an agile company, and we were able to talk with we had built a really strong relationship with the manufacturer, and we're able to make make adjustments on the go and on the fly, and bring new and improved products to market quickly. And we brought the price down 40% for over the first 5 years just by volume and scale.
Nice. So you had a better price, a better product, and in general, a better customer experience.
And I think we still
It was
do.
an instant hit.
Caught up, the competition has caught up a lot,
Yeah.
and there have been a lot of companies that have also entered the space with the same model we have,
Yeah.
which is great. Competition is good. It keeps you on your toes and makes you be the best that you can be. But I think still to this day, because of that first to market and competitive advantage that we've had, we're still out in front of our competitors in these areas.
Were you so you already had standing desks on your website? You were still selling through other marketplaces back then, or you already had all your resources focused on the website?
We were selling just on the website at that time. We weren't on Amazon yet. I mean, that's a whole other marketplace
Hmm.
that we haven't even talked about.
Yeah.
And I know Amazon is different in Europe than it is in North America, but we had just at that time decided we were going to focus everything on our website.
And so you
Um,
uploaded the new products, and people were like coming in, and you still had the old product online, or you decided to like not put them against each other?
well, we weren't. So first off, we weren't sure if our new product, which is called Jarvis, was really going to hit it off with customers. So we didn't want to just take everything down. I mean, it was it, the desks that we were selling weren't perfect,
Mhm.
but they were working, and they were about a quarter of our business. So we didn't want to just take them down and just put up Jarvis and roll the dice and hope that our customers loved
Yeah.
it. So there was about a year of parallel pathing where we had both the third party desks and our desk on the site. But after the first year, when we saw the kind of momentum that our Jarvis desk had and how the other desks started really plummeting in terms of sales, it was really easy for us to flip the switch and just go with Jarvis on our website.
Yeah.
That company's still around and they still sell their desks, and um, they've evolved a
Yeah.
lot, but they haven't grown their market share um, like we have and others have.
I we've seen it in other companies, but in yours particular, in fact, what happened is you created a new product, and that product became your hero product. While before it was your seating, and probably next to that you had your height adjustable standing desk. Now you created your own new product, and suddenly the sales took off. So was there like an internal struggle of like, who are we going to put up first? Because Jarvis is taking off, but we still have our big business in seating. Now Jarvis is like up front on the homepage. It's like it's front and center on the homepage. Like, was there an internal struggle? Like, which product do we put first? How do we test it out?
Definitely. How do you present it? How do you make a big deal out of it, but not so big of a deal that you are are sacrificing your core products
Yeah.
that are paying the bills. Those cash cows all the time. And at the end of the day, John, what it comes down to is the customers tell you,
Okay.
the data tells you how to do it. Um, and the data was telling us, hey, you need to be putting this product more front and center because it's really resonating with customers. So I think listening to your customers, looking at the
Yeah.
numbers, um, views, conversion rates, um, return rates,
Hmm.
those kinds of post-sale kinds of things as well. And we track a lot on the customer service team the nature of what calls are and what people are
Yeah.
saying for each product as well. Like, are they accolades? Are they troubleshooting problems? Are they pre-sale questions? Those kinds of things. And our customers and this the raw data was telling us that this hero product for us was a real hero, and we needed to treat it that way.
Nice. Was it like all uphill starting from the creation of Jarvis up until now, or were there certain spikes and other like deeper pits, or like some things you remember that were like big wins or bigger falls?
Well, some of the one of the it started out pretty
Yeah.
good, and then one day our sales just really spiked, and then the next day it wasn't just an
Yeah.
aberration. The next day the sales were even higher. I'm like, what's going on? There's like all of a sudden, rather than selling 5 or 6 desks a day, we're selling 45 desks a day and 50 desks a day and 60 desks. I'm like, what's going on
Yeah.
here? And what had happened was the wire cutter had named our desk the best height adjustable desk on the market,
Okay.
and we didn't know about it.
Yeah.
We didn't even know that they had bought our desk.
Yeah.
They tested it, and so that was definitely one of the inflection points that took it
Yeah.
off. And we've been among the three top rated height adjustable desks for on Wirecutter, which is owned by the New York Times and is probably the most popular independent review site in North
Yeah.
America. So that helped out a lot. Um, there were, I think, with anything there, it's never like a perfect ride up. There's always some um, imperfect
Yeah.
uh, hills and valleys on the way up, but overall, it's been a really nice trend upward. Certainly, another fuel to the trend upward was uh, the
Yeah.
pandemic. Um, as dark as the pandemic has been for the world, it was a really good thing for our business. People working from home and wanting healthier workstations. We certainly saw another big inflection point up in early 2020. And then we've been struggling with supply, like everyone has with
Hmm.
supply chain issues and things like that, just to keep the product in stock.
Yeah.
Uh, but there have been ups and downs, and I think that uh, one of the challenges as an entrepreneur and someone growing the business is to be able to just recognize that there are a lot of external factors that you have no control over that are going to affect your business. And you need to be able to pivot and be flexible around a lot of different things because we don't know what 2022 holds or 2025. I mean, looking back in 2019, who would have thought
Yeah.
all of this would have gone down? So who knows what's around the corner, and just making sure that you're as flexible as possible, I think is what.
So in 2017, I'm not sure, but I guess in 2017 we saw each other for the first time here in Europe, or I think we heard each other first through a call, I guess. At a certain time, you and your team decided to like come to Europe, but decide on European was to be an interesting part of Fully. In general, I'm interested to hear like how did you at one time decide to look at it? Like you had your business in the US. How come Europe was suddenly on the radar?
Um, well, there's a couple of things for us. Number one, we had we were about 2 years into our new name at Fully, um, and really recognizing the potential that this brand had to resonate with customers. Um, and I think having them be able to relate to it on a really personal human level. This wasn't a brand that was um, geographically limiting. And I think that we recognize just the number one, we recognize the potential of the brand on a global basis. Number two, our products, really the genesis from our products are European. The first seating products that we were curating were from Scandinavia, Germany, and the height adjustable table manufacturer that we first started with was Danish as well. And so I feel like the aesthetic of our product too um, was resonant with Europeans because it was something that really they were born on that continent. So um, for those two reasons, we wanted to. We felt like the Fully message was a global message. It was a human message,
Yeah.
and the product was probably something that Europeans would relate to. So the next step was, how do we do it? How do we? I mean, it's great to think it's going to work, um, but what's the plan? And so in 2017, we started here and fully just thinking about what are ways that we can show up in Europe.
Yeah.
Some of them were, we thought about all the different options on the table. Do we start from scratch? Do we try to do something over there that we've done here in a different way? Do we just ship to Europe and do everything from a North American perspective and just have a website there?
Hmm.
Or do we really invest in the European continent and find and partner with a company that already has a presence and some kind of distribution footprint in Europe? And so we thought about all of those things, and all of those things were on the table. And I took several trips to Europe. Uh, Met with some of our manufacturers. That was one of the options as well. Do we set up some kind of joint venture with our manufacturers over there? So we looked at a lot of different things and ultimately came across Jazzwig, the company that you used to work for, John, who had some similar product, but more importantly, had a similar approach to what we wanted to bring to market and how we wanted to bring it to market. So, after several meetings with the team over there, the Belgian-based team, I think we all felt comfortable with moving forward in an alignment.
Yeah.
And what we didn't immediately just say, "Hey, we're going to buy Jazzwig and we're going to move forward." We started before we got married. We dated,
Definitely.
and I think the dating phase was, "Hey, Jazzwig, let's try and sell your products in North America, and why don't you try and sell our products in Europe, and let's see how that goes." So we tried that for a bit, and just continued to feel strongly that this feels right. Working with these guys feels like they're part of our company. We feel aligned in a lot of ways. There were obviously a lot of issues that came up around selling our products in Europe and selling the Jazzwig product in North America. And most importantly, we got together and we figured those things out. We collaborated and we got a sense of what it would be like to actually work together if we were the same company. And so a little over a year after that, we officially decided to bring Jazzwig into the fold, and they became part of Fully then. And so then we rebranded Jazzwig to
Yeah.
Fully in Europe, and started to try to align our product offerings on both continents. And we're still trying to do that today, which is hard with the supply chains the way they are and where we have things manufactured. So sometimes things are available on the North American website and they're not on the European, and vice versa.
Yeah.
Products that are actually available in Europe, they're not available in North America. But the idea is the same: is to bring these products to the consumer in a direct fashion.
Yeah.
And the way we do things in Europe are really different than the way most companies do things in Europe. And I think that we like when we launched in North America to try to disrupt. Our approach in Europe has been untraditional in how we do this. Rather than set up operations in each individual country, we've headquartered it all in Ghent, and we do uh, all of the content, we do the distribution, we do the customer service, all from there,
Yeah.
um, with specific foreign language sites, but done differently. And I think that a lot of the folks that I talked to when I was in this research phase is like uh, strongly dissuaded me from doing something like
Hmm.
this.
What were the other options? Because you could have said like, oh, we still need to focus on building out the American portfolio, and we still have our customers, but we can upsell so much more to our customers, for example. Or you were always like intended on building out fully as a global brand and had an idea of coming to Europe anyways, or did it really grow because customers from Europe, potential customers, were asking questions like, "Do you guys ship to Europe?" If I remember correctly, I think you shipped to Europe, but it was costly, and probably the customer experience in general wasn't the way you wanted it. So
Yeah, we were shipping to back then. Certainly European customers would find out about us. Maybe they'd read something in Wirecutter or whatever that, hey, this is a really great desk. I'd love to get it. We weren't selling in Europe, so we would essentially say, hey, you can buy from us, but you need to use a freight
yeah,
forwarder and you need to arrange all that.
yeah,
Just because we didn't have the experience, the know-how to do it, and we had so many opportunities, and we're trying to focus so much on growing and nurturing our North American business that it was more of a distraction. So knowing that we had um, a strong base of customers in Europe that wanted to buy our product, the best way to do that is to bring this experience to
yeah.
them. So we wanted to do that in this way, and the way we knew how was to own the process. So to bring our inventory there,
Mhm.
create a website there. And at first, it was just the fully.eu website in
Yeah.
English. Um, and so I'm not sure if I answered your question or not, but
It,
uh,
you,
we knew that Europeans wanted the product. And so rather than have them have a substandard experience on how to get it,
mhm.
um, let's build something so that they could have the same experience as our North American customers could have.
Yeah,
And we're hopeful. I can't say we're anymore because I'm not at Fully anymore, but I know that Fully's also thinking about the rest of the world too,
yeah.
and what does that experience look like on the Asian continent and other continents.
Maybe I can just tell something extra from from our and my experience. So we started working with David and Fully. We still had our own website, Jaswick, and I think at first we bought one desk, and maybe a month later we decided on buying 10 desks just to test out the market, and I think we immediately sold out, which wasn't very common for our website. So we quickly saw that there was a big traction and a big demand here in Europe. And like you previously said, the wire cutter definitely plays or still plays a big role there. That there was in fact already a big demand because everything you did in North America trickled down or like spilled over up until Europe, because people were also in Europe were looking for a standing desk, and I think we immediately noticed by putting it online that it was a huge potential. Um, are there any big differences that you think are like key differences between the US market, because you've seen both, and the European market?
Um, I mean, I think there are a lot of differences, but and there are a lot of similarities too. But focusing on the differences, yes, there's definitely a lot of differences, and I think that recognizing the different languages and cultures, and the way that people interact with brands in Europe is different. Um, the economies on a country to country basis are just
Mm,
different on uh, how they operate in terms of brick and mortar, uh, virtual, digital. Um, Social media is really different in the different countries as well. So I think that in almost every way, um, Europe is similar and different, and I think that success really depends on you really threading that
yeah,
needle, and recognizing where the differences are and how you show up for your
yeah,
customers in the different European countries is really important. Finding what are the most important countries for
yeah.
you, and how do you want to show up there?
Were were you surprised by anything by coming to Europe? Like people, like you said, there are a lot of differences, but there are again a lot of similarities, and I can already tell the listener people here in Europe love the Jarvis product. Were you surprised by that, or were you? Yeah.
Um, I would say I was a little surprised on how quickly we were able to grow in Europe. I mean, I knew we'd be successful. And when anytime you do a really big strategic move at a company, you model it,
Yeah.
you think about it from an operational and a financial perspective. How's it going to play out? And I know for us, we were thinking, wow, we think that the European business can be as big as our North American business. And in fact, we had sort of scaled it out and thought that by the year 2023, and this is going to take time because it took us a long time to get where we are in North
Hmm.
America. It would obviously take us a long time to get there in Europe as well. So we thought that the European business would probably be a quarter of our North American business by 2023. Well, we hit that
Yeah.
already. So what we found was the growth trajectory that we had in Europe was actually much greater than it was in North America, and I think largely because this e-commerce direct-to-consumer model is a little bit less had been a little bit less developed in Europe as it was in North America.
Hmm.
So we were able to kind of crunch up the adoption time some in Europe.
Yeah.
Um, but we were only able to do that because we invested a lot to make sure that the customer experience
Yeah.
and the product itself was something that they were getting as robust of an experience in Europe as they were in North America. So it took a lot of
Yeah.
planning to make sure we were going to do it right. But I think in terms of the surprise, it was how fast it grew.
Hmm. Yeah. The the way you've like in all those 16 years, in fact, you've been at first importing European designer furniture in the US, and then you started like building out your business. You created a new product, Jarvis, and then you came back to Europe to sell a new product. And now, like everywhere in Europe, people are standing at your desk, which is, I think that's a great story because you've been looking at European design and like brought it back to Europe in a really cool way and a new experience. So definitely kudos on that.
Yeah, thanks. It's what's interesting, John, is in all of that, um, taking all the things that I love about European design and bringing it here and then bringing it back to Europe. A lot of evolution in our company happened during that time. So what we actually brought back to Europe was really different than what
Mhm.
we took from Europe.
Yeah.
So it's really exciting to be part of this in Europe as well because we're incredibly inspired by the simplicity of the design, the beauty of the design, and the utility
Hmm.
of the design in Europe, and being able to put our own energy and point of view on that and bring it back and have it resonate in Europe is really gratifying.
Yeah. Uh, a question I'd like to conclude with is like I often like to conclude with is there anything, well, maybe no, sorry, I'll rephrase it. Is there anything you'd like to share with a new up and coming D2C owner right now? Something that you've learned and you'd like to pass along?
There's not enough time on this podcast for all of those things. Um, but and I think that this, if I'm going to have to nail it down to one thing, and I think this has come through a little bit on our talk
Yeah.
earlier as well, John, is that really being laser focused on who you are as a brand,
Yeah.
making sure that you every day ask yourself, is this brand appropriate whenever you're making any decisions? And I think as an entrepreneur, it's really easy to be distracted by a lot of shiny things
Hmm.
and to pivot and move in different directions. And that's great. We all need to evolve. And it's essential that we do. But is this in alignment with who I am and what customers think this company is? And I think just continuing to go back to that and pressure testing your true north and what your brand promise is going to keep your message and your relationships with your customers um, as uh, as true and
Yeah.
robust as possible going forward. Um, and being about something because your customers can feel it. They can see through the BS. They can
Hmm.
see through empty marketing, um, data driven marketing. They want to do business with companies that have a point of view
Yeah.
and make sure that continues to come through in all the decisions that you make.
Very cool. I think that's definitely a different point of view. For most people starting up companies right now, like I've said before, we tend to see founders focusing on the wrong stuffs, on the shiny things, on the big numbers, instead of focusing on the relationship with the customer and how to serve that customer in the best of possible ways possible, whether it is in Europe, in the US. I think that's definitely why fully succeeded here in both the US and Europe is because you stayed true to the customer and what the customer needed, and you developed a great product for it. And of course, the customer service will always be necessary, and developed a great way of handling customer service. So yeah, that's definitely what I'm going to remember from my time at Fully, and I'll be taking to my other ventures. So thank you very much, David.
Thanks, John. It's always a pleasure to be with you. Um, and good luck to everybody out there. My experience with John has been great. I've loved working with you. And I wish you all the best in your next endeavors.
Awesome. Thanks.